Hello and welcome. This is your captain speaking with the dorky looking headphones on. This is our first video conference type lesson that we're going to be having. I'm going to be recording this and you can use these videos in your own time just to catch up on some revision or even just to go over some of the key things that we're going to be learning in class. Now we're going to be starting a new unit on tourism, which we looked at globalization last term 2, I think it was. Now we're going to expand on that idea a little bit more and look at tourism, which is of course a geographical issue, and it can be summed up basically as travel for pleasure. And as one of the world's fastest growing industries, people work in the tourism industry to provide transport, accommodation, and access to attractions for people to enjoy. Some of the questions we're going to be looking at is, why is tourism such a huge global industry? What are the patterns of tourism? What are the impacts of tourism? And finally, how can tourism be a sustainable industry? Okay, so that's the world. However, it can also be resented by locals. It can reinforce prejudices and damage environments. In this chapter, we will look at the growth and impacts of tourism, including the increasing interest in ecotourism, which also will be looking at sustainable tourism, which does not impact on the environment or the human environments as well. So, tourism, a rapidly growing industry. So, over 600 million people travel overseas each year, generating more than $1,000 billion in revenue and provides work for 200 million people. So today we're looking at tourism as being one of the most rapidly expanding industries in the world. Now, it's not a new idea. People have always been curious about what lies just around the corner, over the next hill or across the ocean. However, in earlier times, people rarely travelled very far for relaxation or enjoyment. Instead, they travelled for trade, as we saw in the Dutch East India Company. We saw them trading silks and spices. For war, of course, we had the religious pilgrimages from Europe into the Middle East, the Christian versus Muslims. We also saw exploration, Christopher Columbus and also Captain Cook, two very famous navigators. And also, of course, we have the unfortunate refugees who are fleeing from war-torn areas. This has gone on throughout human history. So, even so, early travellers and explorers were driven by the same desire that many tourists have, and that is a curiosity about the world and its people. So in the last 60 years or so, tourism has grown in developing countries, and there's quite a number of reasons for this. Widespread car ownership and the development of roads, increased in leisure time, and indeed with that comes the idea of paid holiday leave and long service leave. We have the development of jet aeroplanes, and which results in faster, cheaper travel. Development of worldwide direct telephoning, the development of worldwide credit cards, which allows easy payment for purchases, and along with that also comes internet, which makes it easier and quicker to book travel arrangements and accommodation. Okay, so why do people become tourists? Why travel overseas or in your own country for that matter? Okay, so tourism is popular because people often want to get away from their usual environment or their routine. Being a tourist allows us to have different experiences, such as living in a different climate. It can also be an opportunity to relax. Cultural pursuits. Many tourists want to find out about the way other people live and learn about their culture. Tourists might have an interest in architecture, art, dance, food, or even history. People like to travel to places they are curious about, or to places where they can do things that they like to do. For example, a trip to the snowfields will take people to a new place and give them the opportunity to ski. Sport and physical activity. Some tourists travel to participate in sport, and many people travel to see sporting events such as tennis, and indeed we've got the cricket coming up with the Barmy Army, and to learn about the physical environment. So this includes natural wonders such as mountains and forests, and ecotourism, which is concerned with preserving the natural environment. So there are other possible categories. Not everyone fits into a particular tourist type, and many people travel for more than one reason. However, this is the basic sort of idea. Okay, so planning a holiday, there are a few things that you might want to consider. We're looking at personal interests. The choice of destination really depends on your age and interests. For example, you could go surfing, or doing the New Zealand bungee jumping. You may wish to travel to see a live concert, or even just to visit a resort. Now, transport and costs involved with accommodation. If you're a domestic tourist, costs will vary. If you're an international tourist, you will probably go by plane. Your accommodation could vary in costs from camping to youth hostels right through to 5-star hotels. So distance is a big one you want to look at. This will affect your overall cost and the time you can spend at your destination, and whether you will travel through time zones or not, jet lag being a major issue there. Okay, available time. How much time do you have to spend at your destination, and how much time will you spend travelling? And also, finally, we're looking at climate and season, and this will affect what you can do and the equipment that you're going to need to take with you. Okay, so what we have here is a map of international tourist arrivals at different airports throughout the world, and this was taken from 2005. So as you can see, these little black aeroplanes here are airport terminals that have had over 25 million passengers through their terminal just for the 2005 alone. Now you see that a lot of the planes are in the northern hemisphere there, which indicates that the majority of people do actually reside in the northern hemisphere. Now, it's quite easy to get from one place to another through aeroplane flight in the northern hemisphere, as it sort of indicates here. Now, the closest sort of airport to Australia that deals with those types of numbers is down in Singapore there. You can see it just as a little plane on its own there. Just in the Indonesian, Asian sort of region. Australia, we've only really sort of had about, in 2005, as this map shows, between 5 million and 10 million arrivals. So if we're looking at somewhere like China, which has over 20 million, and the United States, and even Alaska up in the top left-hand corner of the United States, you'll see that the arrivals has quite a huge impact there. So we might be thinking that up in Alaska, we're looking at ecotourism and things like that. And China, definitely you'd be looking at the cultural aspects and the historical aspects. And indeed in Europe as well, on the left-hand side of the screen there, we have Spain right down the bottom there, and then England. That airport would possibly be in London, which is just above. There's a cluster of airports there, and they also enjoy quite a lot of tourists for 2005. Okay, just to summarise, we've seen that tourism is indeed one of the world's largest industries. It's a relatively new activity, having been introduced as a leisure activity in the last 60 odd years or so. it's increased in popularity as technology has developed. So with the advent of the internet and credit cards has made being a tourist that much more simple. So there are many reasons why tourists travel around the world. We looked at some of them was just leisure pursuits and interests. And there are a number of factors to consider when planning a holiday. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed your little lesson. There'll be more of these as the unit progresses, and we'll see you on the next video.